What's up, everybody? Welcome to Chats with the Freak. This week I have Justin, a.k.a. Star Daddy, who is promoting his new LP called Candyman and has a new single out called Mothra. How are you doing today, man?
I'm great. I'm back on the East Coast, where I'm from, NYC. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Oh, I miss New York. I was just up there about 2 weeks ago. I was photographing the John 5 tour up in Poughkeepsie, and I miss New York right now. I really do. I love it up there. I've been up there a lot over the last couple months.
Oh yeah, it's perfect timing. The air's a little fresh out here. It's starting to get a little bit warmer, so good time to come out here. You know, I spent the winter in LA, so.
Yeah, you guys didn't really have that much. We haven't really had like a winter over on the East Coast. Like we had like one weekend where it got like really shitty, and then it just has been cold-ish, and then that's it.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is right now, I'm cool with it. I was expecting worse because growing up here, I knew that like the beginning of March might as well be January, or at least that's what I thought. But you know, you never know. I guess now.
Yeah, it varies on whatever the mood's feeling. So that's awesome that you're back on the East Coast, man, and we're both in the same time zone, so that's great.
Yeah.
So you recently released, like I said, this LP, Candyman, a little while ago. What can you tell me about the record?
Oh, well, Candyman is kind of a fusion of all the other albums I've done prior. It has like kind of that industrial rock sound that I was known for originally, like the gothic metal kind of sound. Then we added like some hip hop trap influence, which is like a newer style that I've been working in. And it all kind of ties together with like a dark, nihilistic, but very much like sexual theme to it. And a little bit of a lighthearted side, which is kind of the Star Daddy alter ego that I bring in there. That's like my Slim Shady. So there's a little bit of a kind of lighter edge to it at the end of the album, where it's a little bit more lighthearted. But overall, yeah, I would say it's an amalgamation of all the albums I've done into one cohesive thing.
Yeah, it had a very, like, what I call trap metal vibe, and I mean that in a very good way. I like that genre, and I feel like it's a very underrated, like, sub-genre of metal right now. It's something that a lot of people are kind of messing with, and I fuck with it a lot. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was excited because, you know, artists like Ghostmane and XXX Tentacion, who is dead now, R.I.P. But you know, there haven't been too many names in that genre that have really crossed over into like anywhere near the mainstream because it's so new, it's so fresh. You know, trap happened. You know, trap's been happening for a while now, but to see it being combined with metal, it feels kind of fresh. And then I like to think that I kind of brought like a gothic element to it that hasn't really been there yet. So something a little bit more theatrical. So we were inspired by it. We were just inspired to try new things and dabble with new sounds and collaborate with some people that are like kind of new in the genre. Like Bo Kills is on the song Trash Fire, and he's a trap metal artist who was on American Idol and kind of brought trap metal to the mainstream in a sense by auditioning on American Idol, and the look on Katy Perry's face was just like, what the hell is this? So I was excited to kind of feature him on there and get a little bit of that energy on there.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're totally right. This is a totally like new like fusion that I've been kind of seeing. There's also a band, I believe they're from LA, and if I'm wrong, I'm very sorry to these guys. I've met them on the OTEP tour a couple years ago. They're called the Dropout Kings, and that was like my introduction was when I saw them to trap metal. And I like that every band that I've seen that does it has their own spin on it. Like you were saying, you have more of like a gothic vibe on it. they have more of a, it's still metal, but it's more on the hip hop side more than the metal side. So
Right.
I like seeing what everybody's doing with it because, like you said, it's so new. Everyone's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. And I like the gothic kind of, like you said, industrial metal. You had a little bit of Marilyn Manson vibe in one of the singles. At least I picked up on that. So
Absolutely.
I dig it. Yeah.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson is always a huge influence. My first record actually featured his co-founding guitarist, Daisy Berkowitz. He was on my first album, Rest in Peace. So I always carry that with me and kind of brought that, early Spooky Kids, theatrical aesthetic into play here with this new trap metal style. And, we just tried to do something new and fresh and combine all of our interests and influences.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna lie, when I first looked at it and I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, this looks interesting, and I kind of clicked on it expecting it to be I was expecting it to kind of be metal-ish, but I wasn't expecting it to be trap metal. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking great. So I think you did a great job with the record. I do want to talk to you about the production of the record though, because I get some albums sent to me sometimes to check out, and they sound like they're recorded on a fucking potato or something. And your record sounded production-wise so clear and crisp. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I was so happy that it did not sound like it was recorded on a potato.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I always strive for that. I love bands that are kind of noisy. Growing up, I was listening to a lot of big bands like Big Black or Godflesh or Early Ministry, where it has that that noisy abrasiveness to it. But for me personally, I also like clear production. So a lot of trap metal I've heard has this kind of muddy, blown out sound to it, which is I guess intentional. But I wasn't interested in doing that. I really wanted something that was clear where you could hear everything. And half the record was produced by Angel Nightmare in LA, and the other half was a guy named Moisés Haskins in Jersey City, because I was living on both coasts during the course of the previous year when we made the album. So we kind of did it between those two producers. We did all the songs, and then we just tried to mix it all to sound like it was cohesive and all kind of under the same umbrella. But yeah, always strive for clarity, and people say I'm one of the few artists in heavy music where they can understand what I'm saying. So I always take that as a compliment. I try to be clear with my message and my music.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't have a problem with certain bands and stuff. Like you were saying, really early Ministry. I'm a huge fan of different grunge bands. So, and their early recordings are very gritty, but that's kind of the genre that they were into. And I don't really have a problem with that. But when I hear some of the newer bands coming out, and especially people that are out there trying to, they're going through different PR companies trying to get their name out there, doing whatever. And I know that they're serious about it because they're reaching out to people like me that run podcasts or media sites or whatever to get their music out there. But their product sounds like it was recorded on like I said, a potato or something. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm not trying to call anybody out specifically, but it was just one of those things that I don't understand why that happens.
Right. And it's easier nowadays more than ever to record at home. So you would think, but I don't know. I think one thing that I do that helps is I do a lot of the drum beats and stuff with actual physical drum machines. I have an MPC player and I have a Roland MC307. So a lot of the beats are actually done by hand from a machine, and it just has a really powerful, clear sound to it. We just try to keep everything really in-house and not just stealing beats off YouTube or recording drums with crappy microphones or whatever. We really just try to do it right with everything we do.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got the production right on this, man. It sounds, the mix on it is so good, and it sounds absolutely incredible. So I did notice, kind of researching you up a little bit, that you've been in some other bands previously, and I kind of was a little sketchy on exactly what projects you've been involved in and whatnot. But I do kind of want to ask, what's the difference between being a solo artist and kind of controlling what you do as opposed to being in a band with like other people where you have other things kind of in play?
Well, most of my musical career has been as a solo artist. I did have a group called the God Bombs, which was very active in 2018, and we toured with Ministry, and that was cool. What's exciting about a band, I feel like, is that if there's ever any kind of gap in the equation where you're trying to write something and you just can't really think of a part, there's always someone else there who's going to come up with what's missing. And there's that kind of like brotherhood element, like the camaraderie. But I also feel like with this album, we still had that, because even though it, you know, technically I am a solo artist to some extent, the entire album was written with my guitarist, Ryan Lynch, who's been my guitarist for a number of years, and it was the first time we wrote music together from scratch. So we had that camaraderie from playing live together for years. And then we had DJ Swamp, who I met on the Ministry tour, and he brought a lot of beats and scratching and stuff into the equation. So we kind of had that connection from touring together and playing live together. So it was very much written as as you could say, like a band record. It wasn't just me in the studio on my own with a bunch of producers. So I think it kind of has the best of both worlds, because ultimately, you know, I have the full creative control, but it doesn't feel like it's just one person doing everything.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's all on you. You kind of have like a bunch of people kind of like throw in their 2 cents worth. Yeah, that's really cool.
And people that care, you know, that's the most important thing. I think that's the biggest challenge of being a solo artist. It's like, how do you get people to put their heart and soul into what you're doing? And, you know, I think a big part of that is you just kind of have the same team on come back each time. And it has to be people that really believe in what you're doing. I mean, you know, if you look at like famous solo artists like David Bowie, he would have like a recurring cast of characters on the classic albums. And it would be that team that would come back again each time, you know, it was time to make a new record. And I've always taken that approach too. Like, you have to have people that care, and you can always tell the difference when you're working with someone, if they actually give a shit or not. And I know Ryan put his heart and soul into this record. My guitarist, Ryan Lynch, he absolutely, you know, put his all into it. And we were so excited to work together finally and make music together. We had been touring and playing music that I wrote with other people. So this was his chance to finally write a whole album with me. And I think the guitar on it really kicked ass. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there that you wouldn't even think is guitar, because he's really good with effects and stuff. But he added a lot to the record.
Yeah, that was something like when I was listening to the record, I was kind of like, is that a guitar? Is that a drum? Like, there were certain things in it, and I feel like that's also kind of a common theme in, like, the trap metal genre, per se.
Totally,
yeah. It's like, what is this? Like, this is really cool, because I don't know what instrument this is. Like, I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's cool, because it's like, how did they do that? It's kind of like the mystery to a degree.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're just trying to make our own language here and not really worry about, like, preconceived notions of genre or what something's supposed to sound like. And I think there's a whole group of kids coming up now who just doesn't really give a shit about that kind of stuff. I mean, they're just interested in music, and they don't need to, you know, worry about the labels or the instruments or whatever. It's just, you know, is it good music, and is it good live? And if you know, if that's the case, then that's all that matters. And that was the approach that we took. But yeah, a lot of the sounds on there are guitar, and even a lot of the drum beats, like I said, it was played live on a drum machine. So we try to bring in a more organic element to trap metal, because oftentimes trap metal is completely made on a computer.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that too, and there's a lot of there's some pop artists that go with that route as well, and I think there's an art to it to a degree, but there's nothing to me personally, and this is just my personal beliefs, there's nothing that can beat like a full, like, organic sounding, like, instruments. Like, you can do whatever you want on your computer, but like those, like you were saying about like you actually had like a drum machine, like that, like you can't beat that.
the imperfection and the human feel is so important. And we always try to bring that imperfection and that we try to bring hardware versus software as much as we can, and using actual, even if it's an electronic instrument, it's still an instrument. You're playing it by hand. You're dialing in a sound. You're adjusting the knob, whatever it is that you're doing. So there's even some like really old school 808s in there that Swan brought into the studio, and a lot of really old school synthesizers and stuff that he's had, because he's been DJing since the late 80s, early 90s. So he has a lot of gear that you don't really hear, and you wouldn't hear that kind of gear in this genre typically.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, like I said earlier, man, that was another thing when I was listening to it. I feel like everybody that has like been doing like the trap metal has their own little vibe in it, or little thing that makes them different, which is fucking amazing. I love it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you just obviously dropped the LP. You've been working, promoting different singles and stuff. What else do you have coming up this year as far as music goes?
That's a good question. Well, yeah, we released three videos from the album. We did Trash Fire, Weeble Wobble, and we did Mothra. And then we recently put up a live video of End Times from our tour. We toured with Cyclone 9 this past October to promote Candyman. Coming up next, I'm not really sure. We might do one more video for the album. People seem to really like the album. We've talked about doing a video for the song Asexual off of the album, which is like a more mellower, kind of melodic, kind of depressing, gothy kind of vibe to it. We might do a video for that. I've also been in the studio writing some new music, which I can't really talk about because it's in the very early stages. But we have talked about touring again in September of this year as well. So I also did some features with some other artists, which are going to come out soon, including Razakel and an artist named Buddy Danger, who is somebody that I toured with this past summer. So just been doing some features. I've been meeting a lot of people here in Hollywood and collaborating with them. So it's it's been a lot of stuff bubbling under the surface, but nothing quite ready to announce just yet for the next move.
Yeah. You've just been a very busy man and can't really, nothing's really fully ready to come out yet. No, I totally get that. When you go to Hollywood, man, it gets wild.
Yeah, and there's so many cool people that I've met there. And like I said, I'm here now in New York just for a little bit. I'm actually doing a show here in New York this Friday that I'm excited about at a club called Vinyl. So that's, we're going to get together and do a show here. But yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm just glad that the fans have received the album well, and people seem to be interested in the whole mix of styles that we're doing. So we definitely want to do more in this kind of vein, continue this sort of like sonic journey that we're on with this album.
Yeah, no, I totally think you definitely should, because I think the album is really, really good. I really like the new trap metal vibe that's going on. I really like your take on it. So
Thank you.
I think that's all I have for you today, man. Thank you for taking time to talk with me, and everyone go check out Candyman because it's a ballin' record, man. Thanks for listening in on another episode of Chats with the Freak. I hope to catch you next Freaky Friday.